In the Prem Nagar neighborhood of Delhi, a private school teacher spends his days instructing students on how to fire a gun at a shooting range. It is a quiet, highly structured life. But if you look closely at this man, blending perfectly into the urban sprawl of the capital, you will find someone else entirely. You will find Samuel, also known as Sadev or Amit, a wanted fugitive carrying a 50,000 rupee bounty. For 25 years, he remained completely off the grid. He adopted a new name, converted to a new religion, moved to a different city, and lived a completely new life. Investigators had almost nothing to go on. To track down this ghost, the police had exactly one piece of physical evidence, a single fading photograph taken a quarter of a century ago. A human investigator cannot simply stare into a crowd of millions and spot a face that has aged 25 years. A machine learning algorithm, however, doesn't care about time. The manhunt actually begins in 2002 in the dense neighborhoods of Agra. To fund a love marriage, Samuel executed a robbery of 1.74 lakh rupees, kidnapped a young woman, and quickly fled the state. He immediately headed toward India's northeast. By shedding his original identity upon arrival, he severed his only tie to the crime. As we look at this timeline tracking the cold case, you can watch the years stack up while the police bounty climbs. The reward starts at 2,000 rupees, increases to 10,000, jumps to 25,000, and eventually maxes out at 50,000. In an era relying entirely on paper files, physical bulletins, and fax machines, leaving your home state and picking a new name was a highly effective way to disappear. The trail ran completely cold. Decades later, the Agra Police Task Force decided to reopen the file. They brought in technical surveillance teams to apply modern digital tools to that single old photograph. Facial recognition bypasses biological aging. Instead of looking for wrinkles, the algorithm maps geometric distances between the eyes, nose, and jawline. It scans these coordinates across modern social media profiles, locking onto a match. The visual geometry was correct, under a completely different alias. Investigators took that newly discovered alias and began running it through modern government and commercial databases. Searching registry records for that alias eventually uncovered a vehicle registration, not in the suspect's name, but in his wife's. 25 years of careful, quiet hiding collapsed the exact moment his analog life touched a digitized public record. Knowing a car exists in a database is helpful, but it doesn't give you the geographic coordinates to actually find the suspect in a city of over 30 million people. The location data came from the most mundane source possible, an automated traffic ticket, or challan, issued in Delhi. The data attached to that specific challan pinpointed the exact neighborhood where the car was operating, Prem Nagar. Instead of rushing in, plainclothes officers spent an entire month quietly observing his movements to verify the algorithm's suspicion. Once they were absolutely certain the local shooting instructor was the fugitive from Agra, they moved in and made the arrest. A man who successfully evaded human detectives for a quarter of a century was ultimately brought down because he drove his car past an automated traffic camera. Back in 2002, your identity was essentially a collection of easily forged papers, local registries, and word of mouth. If you physically left a town, you left your identity behind. Today, you have a digital identity. Monitored by license plate readers, smartphone pings, and facial recognition, these systems continuously log data in the background. They weave an inescapable net, making total anonymity nearly impossible. In a world where databases communicate instantly across borders, simply moving to a new city and adopting a new name no longer resets the clock for a fugitive. Samuel outran the paper trails and physical checkpoints of 2002, but he couldn't survive a single traffic camera in a city where his face had already been mapped.